Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. It is Heart DFS. For those of you that are new, welcome. Please hit that like button, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell. But my name's Hart. I make daily NBA slate breakdowns on Draftkings as well as daily NBA prize pick videos. So a lot of good content for you guys to enjoy and check out. I put up an early look at tomorrow's slate yesterday. It's a long video, just giving my analysis on how I'm going to attack the slate, kind of how you guys should look at it, kind of my point of view. And then hopefully you guys get some good stuff from that. I know a lot of people like that. So go check that out. It's on the channel now. And today is going to be more of just how to build some lineups for tomorrow's slate, the $1 million to first. If someone uses one of these lineups and ends up winning, or you win a ton of money, 100,000 plus, don't be afraid to throw me a fat donation, just for throwing out this lineup video. But yeah, let's try to build a winning lineup for tomorrow. Now it's a one-game slate, so it's going to be, kind of hard to get, unique. Obviously, there's going to be 106,000 entrants into this, almost basically 107,000 entries into this tournament. So there's a huge chance that this gets split at least a couple hundred ways, depending on how the game goes. So if you want to get unique, obviously you're going to win either all the money or a good amount of it. Or if you want to get chalky, you can split it with, a couple hundred, maybe even 1,000 people, depending on how the winning lineup turns out. So that's just kind of the two routes to think about it at first. Now let's get into, or before I should have said, follow me on Twitter, HeartDFS. But now let's get into building some lineups. So as we know, this game is going to be hopefully pretty close. Obviously, pretty much every series in this playoffs has been just brutal when it comes to blowouts. It seemed every other game was just blown out. Hopefully this game stays close. I think it should. They match up, pretty well. There are some mismatches, some foul trouble probably will happen, but hopefully these games stay close. We got the Warriors at 3.5 point favorites over the Celtics. So should be close, 212.5 over under. Boston is playing at, wait, let's see. Where are they playing at? Is it at Golden State? I think it's at Golden State. Maybe don't quote me on that. Yeah, it's Boston at Golden State. Okay, so it's at Golden State's home. They play, pretty well at home, as we know. So let's get into building the lineups. I think just based on the news as we have right now, seems like everyone's in, everyone's going to play. So it kind of comes down, the key to the slate, I think really falls on these Golden State Warriors players, where you're going to get the value from. Whether it's going to be Otto Porter Jr., Gary Payton, even Andre Iguodala. Those guys are going to get some run, most likely. But we really don't know how to trust Steve Kerr. And that's going to be the biggest issue for tomorrow's slate, is who to put in, either one of them or two of them in the utility spot to get some value to pay up for the stud players. And, hopefully they work out. Otherwise, it's going to be tough. It's just going to be tough to trust Steve Kerr's rotations. So going off of that, I think knowing that this game should probably stay close, if it's going to be chalky to throw Tatum, Curry, even Jaylen Brown in the captain spot. Tatum and Curry are obviously the most optimal captains pretty much every night. Most likely if one of their team wins, it's because one of them is doing very well. And then, maybe a few people pitch in. So if you want to go that chalky route, the optimal route, obviously we could just throw Tatum in there. Let's put him in the captain spot. Tatum there. And that leaves us with 6,800 left over to fill in. Obviously on the opposite side, most likely Steph is going to do well if this game stays close. Both players are doing well. That leaves you 6,000 now left over. Breaking it down, you could avoid Jaylen Brown. Marcus Smart is kind of the X factor offensively for the Celtics. Going to be high risk foul trouble, as you can see, 6-4-4-4. Going against having to probably guard Steph, that is a foul trouble, kind of nightmare, just with, how he can get to the line and draw fouls. He's a crafty veteran. So Marcus Smart will play 40 plus minutes. It just depends on if he gets in foul trouble or not. And when it comes to offense of the game, he will shoot the ball a ton, even if he's not hitting his shots. But it just comes down to, if he's hitting his shots, he's, I'd say, a great captain play. 47 fantasy points, 64, 40, 40. So he has huge upside. It just comes down to his offensive game. He's very inconsistent. Most of the time, he's not hitting the shots, or if he is, he's not shooting a ton. But as we saw recently, 22 shots versus that Miami game when he was in game 2 when he came back. Then 11, obviously got hurt, only played 24 minutes, foul trouble. 15, 22, missed the game as well. So Marcus Smart, I think you can definitely look to him over Jaylen Brown if you expect him to kind of step up offensively. Obviously, there's that huge risk with foul trouble guarding Steph Curry. Then I, kind of want to stack it. I think, the safest is to do a 3-and-3 stack if you think the game's going to stay close. So 3 players from the Celtics, 3 from the Warriors. So we got 2 in the Celtics. Let's do the Warriors next. Who do we like? Obviously, as I mentioned with Clay, really need him to shoot the ball well. He will get you some peripheral stats, but if you're shooting the ball well and you have him in there, he's really going to help you out your lineup, make it very unique. Just because I know a lot of people are not going to want to play him at 7,800. Still very expensive. When on this slate, there's a ton of guys in that mid-range route that you can throw in there. So I think Clay is going to go overlooked at that price tag. People are going to rather play Marcus Smart for a few hundred more, or guys like Horford, Looney, Wiggins, Green, even Poole, White, all the way down to Williams. They'll probably rather play than Clay. So Clay's going to be super probably low owned and very contrarian. So don't mind throwing him in there. But I really think, if the Warriors offense, as I mentioned the 800 times, if they're playing to the peak Warriors offense, it's because of Draymond Green being the engine of the team when it comes to setting screens, throwing assists, doing his fake handoff, driving to the basket. As you can see, he's an assist machine. He will get some boards. And it just comes down if he's scoring his points. If he is, he has upside into the 30 and 40 range. But most likely, he's probably going to be in between 25 to maybe 40 fantasy points. I think you need him in the utility spot, especially if you think Steph's going to do well, like throwing Draymond in there. And I don't mind getting the Poole, 6,400 left over, or 6,400. If I don't know if Poole, this is where I kind of get torn. It's like, do I want to go Poole or Wiggins? Wiggins is going to get the more minutes. He's been very aggressive recently. His upside is kind of limited. He did show 47 there, but it's usually kind of 30 to 40 in that range of his upside. Poole, obviously the minutes are not there, not as aggressive offensively, at least in that Dallas series. Didn't play the best, but he is better peripheral stat wise, when it comes to assists. But he's going to be very foul prone. They're going to attack him on the defensive end. And so we see if he gets in foul trouble, Steve Kerr doesn't care to play him as much as he should. And it will hurt him very offensively. If he's not involved offensively, if he's not in the flow, he's not going to, pay off 6,400. But it's tough, it's deciding between those two for the third player on the Warriors side. Obviously, Steph's doing really well. Most likely means Draymond is by getting him open, throwing him the passes. And then I like, either going Poole or Wiggins in that third spot for the Warriors side. If we go Wiggins, we can throw in a guy like Gary Payton Jr. Obviously, that's a 4-2 stack. Tatum and Marcus Smart, and then you have Curry, Green, Wiggins, and Payton. If you wanted to go Celtics guy, it's kind of hard to. It's hard to fit 3 in if you want to go Tatum at the top. So then you kind of got to get risky, as I said. Throw a guy like Gary Payton in there. Very obviously scoring dependent because he's more in there for his defense. So if he hits some shots, he's going to really pay off. Otherwise, he's going to have some very low scoring games, probably in the low teens. And it just depends. Like, he's questionable. We don't know what Steve Kerr's rotation is. So I say get risky for this first game. People are going to have to throw, dart throws at these lower owned Warrior guys and lower salary, Warrior guys, and hope that they play. No one really knows what Steve Kerr's going to do. I figure that Gary Payton Jr., they really like his defense, his on-ball defense, so they're going to throw him out there. I'd say at least 10-plus minutes. I'd expect Iguodala to play, 15 minutes around there maybe. A veteran, tall guy, good at defense. This is why they want him to come in, guard guys like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, especially if like Wiggins or Draymond Green get in foul trouble. I think they'd rather throw those guys out there than have Looney be out there. I think Looney's going to get put on an island. I don't think Looney's going to have as good of a series as he did in the Dallas one. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just think, this isn't really a KEVON Looney series. The Boston Bigs are a lot better defensively and offensively than those Maverick guys. The Maverick guys were just 3-and-D guys, not even really defensive guys. They're just kind of just, undersized, just centers running around, power forwards. So going off of that, this is one lineup you can do. That was a lot to talk about in one lineup, basically like 6 minutes, but Now let's go like Steph route. Let's go like Steph in the captain spot. I think the best part about this right now is, at least for this first game, everyone's pretty, priced about right, relatively to how they've been performing. I think Wiggins, Green, and Horford should be a little bit more. Looney should be less, but that's kind of how they've been playing. But let's throw Steph in there. I'd still prefer Tatum over Brown, even with that 1,400 difference. But obviously Brown has upside, a little bit lower of a floor. Done well. I think he should, be able to step up this series as he did kind of versus Miami in a lot of those games, especially that. Or is it the first, 3, 54, 40, 45. I know Tatum, one of those games he was bad. 2 of the games the whole team was bad. He was stepping up. So if you want to go, let's just say Jaylen Brown. That means, let's say Jason Tatum's having a bad game, you go Jaylen Brown. I do think, Horford would probably step up. Same with Marcus Smart. So this is more of like a Celtics stack now with Curry at the top. Then we could throw in, let's just say Iguodala, and at least it's 8,700 left over. So then you could throw a guy like Clay in. Clay and Steph, maybe they're hitting all the threes. This is the lineup, left salary. The biggest part about getting unique on the slate is leaving the salary left over. I'd say at least 800 plus, at least 700 to 800 plus or more on the table. Because if you're leaving on the table, it means your lineup's, getting a little bit more unique, especially with 107,000 entries. You want to get it unique. If you want to win the million first, you have to get unique, or just make just the most random lineup you can think of. But the odds for that obviously hitting it are very low. So it's just like it's like a seesaw. The more unique you get, the odds are lower of it hitting, but you win all of the money or most of it, depending on how it splits and if someone else makes the lineup like you. But if you want to get it very optimal, then obviously the money goes down, because most likely there's gonna be a ton of lineups like that. So that's what you kind of have to weigh, how contrarian you want to get, and leaving the money on the table is getting contrarian. So let's say 900 plus. I'd say it's not too hard for someone to make the same lineup like this. So be semi contrarian. But if we want to get really contrarian, I'd say let's go like a captain like Poole, even Draymond. You can throw in there. Wiggins is just a little too limited on the upside, I think, for me. But let's say just Al Horford. I've done it before. He's performed very well. And maybe if Tatum and Brown are struggling at Golden State, Al Horford, they'll throw him out there for pretty much the whole game. He can guard a lot of positions. He's been, surprisingly extremely good postseason. As you can see, 42 minutes, 33, 39, 33, 44. Not too involved offensively. That's the only downside of Al, is he's not too involved offensively. Obviously, he's a great shooter. Past 2 games really didn't show that. But before that, he has huge upside. 45 in that first game against Brooklyn. 34 kind of dropped down. 15, 23, 37 in that Milwaukee series. 40, 57, 45 and a half, 34. Dropped down a little bit. 21, 49. 38, 34, or 34, 38, drop down a bit. And then I do think Horford is going to step up here, guard every position, going to play a ton of minutes. It just comes down if he's hitting the shots, if he gets involved offensively. If you think those guys at the top for like Tatum and Brown are not going to play well, or even Smart, they're going to be, kind of be off. I'd say, load up on Al Horford at center. Has huge upside when it comes to pretty much every stat on the stat sheet. So let's just go with Al Horford there. Let's get a little different. Let's say, for some reason, let's say Steph gets locked down. We're going to throw Clay, Poole, and Wiggins in there. 8,600 left over. Let's say, want to go back to Tatum, 6,600 left over. You can fit in a guy like Robert Williams, who does have upside, even though he's kind of limited in minutes wise. I do think this should be a good series for him. Golden State, they're smaller, not going to be, KEVON Looney is probably the same size as Robert Williams. Robert Williams is more mobile. I think he should have a lot of rebound opportunities, even scoring opportunities when it comes to the lob from Tatum, Jaylen Brown, whoever it may be. So I do like Robert Williams a good amount in this series. you know, you can throw Derek White in there, Grant Williams, Otto Porter. So there's just a ton of guys we can throw in here. Let's say, what do we got? 1, 2, and then 3 Warriors. Derek White, obviously, he's a guy who's going to play probably, I'd say his floor is at least 20 minutes. And if he gets extended, he could see 30 plus. I'd say the sweet spot is 20 to 30. He does have some upside. He can get you some pretty random games where a lot of stuff just falls to him when it comes to getting some rebounds, assists, steals. And especially if you think Al Horford's going to do well, means the guys at the top like Tatum or Brown are struggling, and even Marcus Smart. So we can just throw in, let's say, where is he? Where'd he go? Derek White off the bench, leaves you 1,200 left over, gets you a lot more unique compared to a lot of lineups that are going to be put into this tournament. And so I think this is a route you can go. I'm really liking Al Horford, Marcus Smart as captains for tomorrow. Even getting, you know, more contrarians, Klay Thompson is a captain spot, and it allows you to put in a good amount of these, you know, mid-range guys who do have some upside. And there'll be a lot, you know, pretty safe floors in that utility spot. So it's kind of how, you know, contrarian you guys want to get for tomorrow. I hope you guys enjoy, you know, me going over, you know, 3 lineups, kind of talking through them. Hopefully they make sense. If you do, you know, don't be afraid to throw a comment down below of kind of how you guys want to attack this slate. You know, what plays you like in the captain spot, what you like in the utility spot. You know, maybe you have different opinions on what I've said. And so, you know, I'd love to hear them. DFS is about hearing everyone's opinions, kind of building your own stance from there and going on, putting your own lineup in. So if you guys do enjoy this video, please leave a like. Let's try to get to 25 plus likes. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll have an NBA prize picks video out later tonight as well. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.